Thank you for joining us. I'm Paul Wilson, and you're listening to the Diesel Performance Podcast. Just me in the studio today, kicking things off. We're going to give Chris a bit of a break here. Jumping right in from Facebook is our newest segment where we're actually taking the messages you guys send us on Facebook and putting them on the podcast so we get to read what you're going to send us and answer your questions right here for everybody to kind of share in this information. WC Fab is our sponsor for this. WC Fab makes excellent twin turbo kits, traction bars, single turbo kits, pretty much anything you need to be fabricated, they are your go-to. So today's message is from John Pierce. He says, "Hey, love your podcast. I currently have a 2001 7.3 that has 315,000 on it with a KC38R turbo, 160cc single-shot injectors, reman trans with a billet torque converter, Terminator, H-pop, etc., etc. I haven't had it on a dyno, but I guess it's around 400 horsepower. I'm looking on trading it for a bone stock LB7 with 280,000 miles. In air quotes, or in written quotes, he actually has new injectors 2,000 ago. His is an extended cab long box. Mine's a crew cab short box. Is this a good idea, or am I going to hate life? I've owned a Cummins before and a couple of Power Strokes, and have always wanted to see how the Duramax does. After listening to your podcast, it isn't terribly hard to get 400 horsepower out of an LB7. My Power Stroke has been fairly trouble-free, except for needing it to be plugged in a lot and incredibly loud. Should I do it?" So, John, this is a tough one because it's going to come down to the actual truck once you show up and you're looking at it. There's a lot of things, I think, outside of just the normal mechanicals that weigh in pretty heavy on the value of a truck. Now, if he's trading you because he just needs a crew cab and he has a great truck and yours has some miles on it, obviously, this could be a killer deal. However, if you get there and there's contaminants, so mixed fuel and oil, mixed coolant and anything, or mixed coolant and oil, all those are walk-away issues. If you go to check the injectors and the balance rates are at 12, walk away. If there's a massive hazed idle or a good hazed idle, walk away. So injectors are the big problem-some kind of well-known thing about LB7s. There are a few other points just to keep aware of. I have sent you a private message on this one, John, so we've actually already been corresponding a little bit. Again, depending on the condition of that LB7, I would say you're at least in the ballpark of a fair trade. I don't know about a great deal, but at least a fair trade. I think my initial response was you're probably giving up reliability for fun. That's never been a bad thing for me personally. Now, Exergy brings us the newest segment, Do's and Don'ts. Exergy is bringing us the longest running segment of the show, which is the Exergy Do's and Don'ts. Exergy is a great resource for all of your high-pressure fuel system needs for any of the Bosch injectors, and even a few things outside of their mainstay there. Sportsman injectors have been the big push lately. Those are drop-in injectors for all of the Duramaxes and most of the Cummins. The Do of this week. Do use brake cleaner and a soft rag or light-duty brass wheel or brush to clean injector nozzles. So you pull the injectors out, you're doing a job, they need to go back in. That's fine. Just use a little bit of brake cleaner, a soft rag. You want to be very gentle with these injectors. You can easily damage the nozzles, which is exactly what our don't is for this week. Don't use anything abrasive to clean the nozzles, especially and specifically a bench grinder or welding wire shoved in through the end of the nozzles. While you have the best of intentions to clean this thing beyond all recognition of clean, you are just costing yourself more and more money as you do something like that. This kind of walks me into this week's Diesel Insights from Duramax Tuner, your home and resource for the highest end of custom diesel tuning, whether that's for your Duramax with EFI Live, your Cummins with MM3, even your Power Stroke with the Insight Pro custom tuning. Duramax Tuner is going to be able to get you taken care of. They recently launched a Diesel Insights video about LB7 injector failure. And this video really is great because it broke down why they fail, talking about fuel system contamination, water, dirt, and debris in a high-pressure fuel system. They went through internal wear from low lubricity, fuel line connectors getting over-torqued or people reusing lines and getting high-pressure leaks, LB01 to 05 injectors, the ball seat not being hardened, and how that can definitely lead to premature failure. They also went through how to diagnose, what to do to read your balance rates. And we've talked about that in the past. Make sure you're in park or neutral and the truck is at operating temperature. Numbers should be plus or minus 4. Closer to 0, the better. They went over fuel in the crankcase, long cranking when hot and haze at idle like I had just talked about previously. They also cover the fixes, how often you should change your fuel filter, the importance of using good quality fuel, not just buying the cheapest diesel you can find. They talk about running an additive to add some lubricity when necessary, and they also talk about LB7 injector line set when you do a new set of injectors. And of course, don't forget the torque wrench. Now, industry news this week is from Alligator Performance, who is the title sponsor of the Ultimate Callout Challenge. Us here being the official podcast of the Ultimate Callout Challenge, we're really excited for this. As of today, while we're recording, we're 97 days away. I think that means we'll be about 90 days away from when this airs. That's just 3 months, people. Most guys don't have their trucks together. Most guys don't have engines in their trucks. And a few guys already have engines in trucks and have blown them up during testing. So it's a really, really exciting 2018 Ultimate Callout Challenge. Of course, that'll be held at Lucas Oil Raceway in Brownsburg, Indiana, May 4th, 5th, and 6th. 30 competitors this year and 50 qualifiers. Speaking of the Ultimate Callout Challenge, I'm finally at my favorite point in the podcast where I get to bring on our special guest. This week, it's Eric Merchant from Merchant Automotive. Eric, how the hell are you?
I'm doing spectacular. So before we get into this, let me just clear the air. There's no sign on the door that says where not to poop in the bathroom. And if you've ever been a guest at somebody's house and overflowed the toilet, I was that guy. So apologize for the delay in getting started because I had to soak up my mess. But anyways, carry on.
Hey, don't worry. You didn't need the code anyways.
Yeah, well, anyways, I felt like the cleaning crew got the mop out. So yeah.
That's Eric. Shows up at your house, drops a deuce in the wrong toilet, overflows it, and then is late for an appointment because of it.
Yeah. Apparently that's a common thing, and nobody bothered to tell me, or there was no sign on the door.
I was standing there as you were walking towards the bathroom, and Nick was actually trying to say, "Hey, Eric, actually, the other," and then the door closed, and he was like, "Oh, well."
Maybe a courtesy knock or a text, perhaps, anything. At least have the courtesy of putting the mop bucket close by. Saves on the embarrassment of walking through the sales office, pushing the mop. I'm sure nobody knew what was going on. So, yeah, I just thought I'd break in my welcome. So.
Yeah, no, that's how to show up, man. We won't forget the visit.
Oh, that's gold. Then I mean, whatever it takes,
Now, Eric, we got to talk last year at the UCC. You guys were a vendor there. I think me and Danny came down and hijacked you and Jericho out of the booth and made you guys come up and do a short episode with us.
Yep.
And then this year, you guys decided we don't want to just watch; we want to actually get in and participate at the UCC, huh?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, Why? I don't know. I don't know. You ever won like a contest where you get to go hang out with a pro sports team and you're like and you're around all these pro athletes and you get to go behind the scenes and see the locker room or whatever, go to the team with practice and good seats for the event. That's kind of what it's like. I thought I was winning something, and then that's not the case. And then I hear you say there's 90 some odd days left, and I just listened to the podcast yesterday or the day before with Rawling, and I like his idea better. I'm sure there's a year in there that we're missing, so maybe the calendars are off or something, but yeah, so 90 some days.
That's got to put the gas down a little bit because I think you're in the boat with the majority of competitors this year. The truck has, we'll just say, not been tested yet.
Right. Or washed. No, we have some work ahead of us. It's starting to feel like it's getting closer, and I'm a great procrastinator. More so than I want to be, but there's a lot of work to do. Some of these guys are really prepared. I don't want that to bother me. I think I want to just go out there. We want to make sure we have fun with it. It's cool to be a part of that. way above my league. These guys are that are out there. But to be a part of that is just pretty cool. You know, you can just go play with the big guys and have fun with it. So I'm looking forward to it for that part. Obviously, there's a lot of work to get ready for that, but I think it'll be fun. You know, I don't anticipate we're going to set the world on fire with anything, but a good solid showing, have fun with it, and it's exciting to watch that event grow to what it has been. I mean, I've been to both events so far in Utah and then last year in Indy, and what a huge step. And this year with the qualifier, hopefully a little better weather, a little, a couple weeks later. I know the vendor side is growing, so it's kind of the Super Bowl, I think, or at least it's turning into that for the industry. So
that's what we've been calling it, man. This is the biggest competition of the year. It may not be ranked the highest, right? Like the guys who are drag racing and go all the way to the end of the World Finals and win it all, with the NHRDA, and the guys who are pulling with like Pro Pulling League, in their world, they're the best, right? But I think as far as like horsepower, this is the most horsepower we've seen in the industry is at this event. I don't know about like specifically setting records in the others. It's hard to say you set a sled pull record, right? But
yeah, I don't know how you do that necessarily, but
the turnout and to be able to see these trucks just completely transform from drag racing to dynoing to sled pulling in 3 days is awesome, if nothing else.
That's a huge feat, and just to watch some of that stuff that's happened in the pits and unbelievable the amount of effort that gets put into it by everybody, the competitors, the pit crew, the fans. I mean, that that takes a lot of effort to be at a place for a whole weekend. That's a big sacrifice. So to see that many people come out and enjoy it, that's awesome.
Sure.
So you can see all that in one spot. The racing series are definitely cool. You jump around, you travel, but man, to get everybody in one spot like that with that kind of stuff going on, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it is the biggest and baddest trucks in the industry right now. That's really who we're seeing get attracted to come in and be a competitor. And as I'm going through and starting to interview some of the qualifiers, we're starting to see that like they don't really see themselves as like they're going to win it next year. They just want to be involved, which I think is kind of cool to hear. You're really coming from that same kind of standpoint of, hey, listen, we're not going to come out and, like you said, set the world on fire. It's not a DX 500 going in that we're all going to be talking about for months. Right. But you want to go there and you want to play. Let's talk about the setup, man. What's the plan? What truck do you want to bring?
Well, the plan is to bring out our 2003 GMC, we call it the blue truck, kind of the truck that started everything for me way back in the day. Bought it brand new. I've had it since then. 2013, we campaigned it on the sled pull circuit. Not the most successful run. Had some issues with it, but was able to go out and have fun with it and again, kind of play with it. Life comes up, things go on, so it's kind of sat. And then the opportunity for this came up, and what a great avenue to get the truck back out per se and run with it. So it's a crew cab short box. It's still a, I guess we'll call it a retired 2.6 truck.
Okay.
All the OEM driveline upgraded, of course, whatnot. But so that's what we're going to get back out and just have a good, consistent show with it. So, I don't understand drag racing. Apparently, you just go. But,
we can't have two of us giving guys the same advice about drag racing now. I usually have somebody in here who disagrees. I'm always the one underselling it. You're driving, aren't you?
I think so. I'm going to give it a shot. To be determined. I'll be in it for at least one of the events, maybe all three. But honestly, that's to be determined. I don't see a reason not to, and I don't see a reason that I have to.
Okay.
So we'll see where that goes. I don't have a good answer at the moment on that one.
It may just come down to whose toilet you clogged that morning.
It very well could be. I might be tied up, cleaning up, and somebody's got to take the wheel. So you'll have that.
Well, feel free to come grab me if you need a driver. I'd be happy to embarrass the truck.
I've got that covered.
So now you've mentioned you guys have campaigned this truck on the sled pull circuit in the past, and really not super big into drag racing with it right now. Can I assume then that you plan on showing really strong in the sled pulls, and whatever happens in the drag race kind of happens?
I I think I'm more comfortable in the sled pull side. Now, to say that we're going to have the best showing in the sled pull side, that might be difficult because the truck is going to be very similar setup wise. I mean, we'll change, gear ratios and that kind of thing that are required. But some of the guys that had some setups last year, they're pretty dialed into that stuff. So I think if I can do acceptable or above average all the way across the board, I'll be happy. And I'm I guess just to have a showing in all three events.
Okay, so, just make it through. I mean, that's a winning strategy. If we go back and look at the points,
geared towards the sled pull side as far as the setup and whatnot. So the drag racing might be interesting. If I don't hit anything, maybe that's a win for us. So we'll see. I mean, like I said, the sled pull is definitely our strongest suit, or our most comfortable area. So,
gotcha. Okay. With that, I thought it was really interesting when I got to see last year, like I was saying, the dramatic transformation to where like these sled pullers, guys who have been sled pulling and they're hardcore sled pullers and they had to like make it through a drag race. When they showed up to that sled pull, man, they pulled every trick that's been outlawed in their class, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like big ass cut tires, no problem. Like whatever you want for a driveline setup, no problem. I think there's a basic hitch height requirement.
Yeah, I think you have to have it.
Right.
It might be the only rule. Maybe I'm sure there's more, but
that's about it, right? So how are you going to capitalize on that? Like, are you going to have massive cut tires? Are you going to hang double the extra weight in the front? I think there is a weight limit, but
yeah, there is. I'm pretty sure there's some basic rules in that regard. As far as the big cut tires, no, because I want to keep it more simple, less exotic. I think it would be a much more enjoyable event for everybody involved on our side, at least. If we're there, if the downtime in between is minimized. I mean, there's still going to be some transition period. We are going to have to change some stuff around from drag racing to sled pulling, that kind of thing. But I don't know there's going to be anything super excessive because of the reliability side of it. Don't get me wrong. I would love to, turn it into some crazy against any rules possible, whatever. But then we've only got two chances to do weird, crazy stuff. So I think I'm going to play it on the conservative side.
Really?
Am I allowed to say that in UCC?
Yeah, well, I mean, for the UCC conservative, right? I mean, like now we're dialing right into this conversation where I wanted it to go with, like, can we get a projection on your horsepower numbers?
I'm shooting for triple digits.
Okay. Fucking stock 300 horsepower LB7 shows up. I'm going to die.
That I won't rule that out. But no. I would like to see it in that mid-1,000 horse range, on the dyno. Getting that usable on the drag strip or the sled pull track, I don't think is possible. At least with a setup like that, that's going to be a switched over setup and that kind of thing. But 13 to 1,500 horse.
Okay.
Obviously, it's going to take a whole lot more than that to win, but I don't want to be cocky about it because we'll just see what it does.
Well, that's what it is too, right? So like a 1,500 horsepower, like usable truck compared to going up and making 2,000 or plus 2,000 on the dyno, kind of different. So we get into that setup question again, of are we going to swap out the turbos for all three events? Or are we going to drag race and dyno with the big horsepower turbo setup and go to a sled pull that's a little more conservative and keep it together? Like, is that the setup you're talking about changing, is limiting it with air? Or do you guys have some other plans? Is it more like chassis adjustments you want to make throughout?
Ideally, I think the engine would stay the same. As far as the setup, the engine, the turbos, maybe the tune side would vary a little bit just based on what's there. Chassis-wise would be most of the changes. We plan on having different axles, different suspension setups for each event, or at least the sled pull versus the drag race and dyno. That will be the biggest change. Transmission would probably be changed as well. I'm not sure if it needs to be. Maybe a converter change. We are going to run an Allison still.
Oh, wow.
Probably... I don't know. The guys that were doing it last year, pretty solid showing with an Allison, And yeah, we could switch all that over and put a big drive line in it for the sled pull, but I think that takes away some of the enjoyment of the event. And I really don't want to sacrifice that for the sake of just to have fun with it. You know,
Right.
It is a very serious event for a lot of people, and myself included. And there's a lot of people watching. There's a lot of attention to this thing. But it still has to be fun. If it ain't fun, nobody's going to do it,
right.
Or nobody wants to do it. There's a couple different levels of competitors, and Levon I don't think he's on a level. He's just there. And that's just crazy awesome to watch that turnaround and to see his consistency and his preparation. That's why he's where he's at. Let's be honest.
Right.
But I really thought it was cool to see, Mike Graves and Wade Minter and guys with some just consistent setups. And the smile on those guys' face, that's what it's all about to me. Do people remember the middle of the pack guys? Yeah, hopefully, because we're all there for that reason. But if you can't have fun with it, you got to have fun with it. That's my thought.
No, absolutely. When you said keeping an Allison in it, Mike Graves was the one that jumped to mind for me to, put down a consistent showing for 2 years now with the same Allison, and then going out and sled pulling with it. And there's somebody specifically who said I'm only going to do this once and I'll never do the UCC again. The day after the event was done, he called up and said, I'm doing it again. Get me on.
Yeah. I'm afraid it's going to be that addictive drug for us as well, but we'll see how it goes. I'm not going to make any promises or predictions or whatever else, but like I said, to be a part of it, that's a huge honor, I guess you could say. That's you're very select group of people that are doing this, and it's awesome.
A lot more than 30 diesel shops out there that could enter.
Yeah,
right? There's 30 in this.
Yeah.
So that's it. It is an exclusive bunch of trucks that get to do this. And I'm also excited to hear that this year there's some changes with top 10, you're guaranteed a spot. Everybody else, there's some fluctuation on that. You may not. It's going to depend on what happens.
Yep.
So I'm really excited for it. Can you give us any insight? Have you guys spec'd a turbo and injector and CP3 setup yet?
Turbo-wise, we've kind of discussed it a little bit just recently. I say we had a nice visit with Jason Wehrli yesterday about some setup on the truck and some assistance that he's going to be able to provide for us. And then Bob and Nick and myself, we all chatted about it today a little bit more. So I think a compound setup is kind of the direction. Again, the simplicity, nothing exotic and off the beaten path. Injector-wise, S&S has got a set of injectors that are done, ready to go for it. So those are handled. I don't know if it's big enough, but it seems to be what it needs to be.
500% mongooses to kill the cobras, or what?
350s.
Okay.
350s. I'm told that's adequate. And then pump-wise will be reverse rotation 12 millimeter, a pair of those. Fairly straightforward, I guess. There's no exotic stuff. Let's put it that way.
As boring as 1,500 horsepower could be.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yep. Pretty much. The reliability is one of my. Like I said, I want it to be reliable. It's not going to be fun if it's not. But man, is it cool to see people push the limit like they do? It is just. I am getting goosebumps thinking about sitting in the dyno sitting in the stands watching, the hype and all that stuff surrounding when Sean goes on the dyno or Levon and you sit in the stands, you don't realize how many people are sitting there watching with you. You kind of walk away or you get down, you look up and you're like, damn, there's a shitload of people here.
Tens of thousands.
We're
measuring in tens of thousands now.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So like I said, I'm excited to be a part of it, but I'm excited to watch all the goings on of it as well.
Right.
Plus, we'll have another crew there with our booth in the vendor row or the terminology industry expo.
Diesel Performance Industry Expo. It's okay.
Yeah, that's
I fucked it up a few times too.
Yeah.
Speaking of, okay, so the sand rail will be there again.
Sand rail, if it's still in our possession, will be there.
Can it have street tires on it and I get the keys?
There's no keys. Shameless plug. The car is going up for sale.
Oh, shit.
The car is going up for sale. We've got 4 years out of it. It's been a really good marketing tool. Nick has had that thing all over the country. Up the snow hills in the sand. There's a set of studded tires for some ice racing that was done with it. It did have some slicks on it at an event a couple years ago. But
man, you're twisting my arm. I need a new daily. I don't know if you know that, but I need a new daily driver. I was thinking this is it.
I'll bring it over. You got it. So no, but we've freshened the car up. The motor's been freshened up. The training's been freshened up, just to make sure that everything's in tip-top shape. It's really one of those things you can make laps with it. You know, we do run it on race number 2 pump fuel. So as long as you have access to diesel fuel, then you don't need anything else.
That's it, man.
Yeah, that's it. But if it's still in our possession, we will have it in the booth, of course, yes.
Gotcha. If not, we'll see the big blue Duraburb down there,
The
right?
Duraburb will be there somewhere.
In the parking lot.
We want to put it in the booth. It's fun to see the reaction to people. There's a lot of really nice conversions out there. You guys have one, but it's just a fun truck. I enjoy it. It's a pain in the butt because it's mine, but it's still fun, and I like to see the reaction to people when they get to see it up close. So it's cool.
I dig it, man. Well, we can't wait to see your LB7 out at UCC this year.
No. LBZ.
I'm sorry, LBZ.
LBZ. Sorry, we missed that detail. Truck's in 03, but the motor and that type of thing's all LBZ based.
Okay, I was sitting here thinking I went crazy. I was like, he said 2003.
No, he did. He did.
Your 2003 LBZ powered truck out at UCC this year.
Yeah.
I like that. Awesome. Eric, thank you so much for joining us today. Any last shout outs you want to give before we wrap it up?
Well, I apologize for the bathroom situation. That seems to be handled. And then everybody that's kind of helping us out on the UCC thing, like, Wehrli and Duramax Tuner, S&S Diesel, Fast Fuel Systems, Engineered Diesel, Ultimate Diesel Builder's Guide. And I'm sure there's more. There will be more as things come on, but it's fun. It's a lot of work. It's gonna be a fun project. So.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I just want to give a quick shout out to all of our sponsors. That's Alligator Performance, your industry-leading resource for Duramax, Cummins, and Power Stroke upgrades. Duramax Tuner for providing you with the best tunes on the market. Exergy Performance for the highest quality fuel injection system components you can buy for your Duramax or Cummins or Power Stroke. And of course, WC Fab for being a world-class fabricator. Thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you next time.
Calibrated Power Solutions, the leading North American developer of clean diesel power and home of DuramaxTuner.com, is the proud sponsor of the Diesel Performance Podcast. Calibrated Power develops emissions-equipped calibrations for a wide variety of diesel powertrains, including the Duramax, Cummins, Jeep, John Deere, and many more. For more information and the best customer service in the industry, check out CalibratedPower.com or call 815-568-7920. That's 815-568-7920. If you'd like to contact the Diesel Performance Podcast, send us a message through Facebook or email Paul at DuramaxTuner.com or Chris at CEHMKE at DuramaxTuner.com. You could also reach him by phone. Chris's extension is 2121, Paul's is 2122.
Can we get a projection on your horsepower numbers?
I'm shooting for triple digits.
Okay. That's fucking stock 300 horsepower LB7 shows up. I'm going to die.
I won't rule that out. But no.